I said one sentence, and the man next to my aunt dropped his fork. "See you tomorrow." No one smiled. No one confirmed. A photo slipped from his jacket pocket, and suddenly the entire room went still. I brought cinnamon crisps and a white rose that night. What I took home was the moment I realized they'd mailed me a fake wedding date and used my name to fund it. I showed up at my aunt's house holding a box of warm cinnamon pastries and a polite smile. No one seemed annoyed I was there, but no one hugged me either. Just that sterile, southern version of welcome. "You're here, great." The house smelled like rosemary ham and carefully managed tension. Every wine glass gleamed. Napkins folded like origami. You could tell someone had tried, just not for me. Still, I placed the pastries on the sideboard, straightened my blazer, and took the only open seat, right beside a man in a gray suit and a gold tie pin. I didn't know him, but he looked like someone who reviewed contracts for breakfast. "Can I pour you some tea?" I asked. He nodded, polite, and then I said it. "I'm really looking forward to tomorrow." That's when the fork hit the floor. It wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. He bent down to pick it up slowly, like his body had to catch up to the shock. His eyes flicked toward my aunt. She froze. I looked between them, waiting for someone to explain, to laugh, to clarify. Nothing. Then I saw it. He adjusted his jacket, and a photo peeked out from the inner pocket like a secret slipping loose. Just one corner, but enough. White dress, twinkling lights, my sister, already married. I excused myself, politely. Walked out to my car with the box of pastries still warm in the passenger seat. Once inside, I pulled the invitation from my bag. Thick paper, elegant calligraphy. June 8th. In bold, center aligned, final. But the photo I saw, the one peeking from the lawyer's pocket, that wasn't from a rehearsal dinner. That was a wedding, with guests, decorations, a reception, and the date printed at the bottom corner of the image, June 1st. I stared at both dates, side by side, a real wedding and a pretend invite. A knock came at my window. It was my aunt, still clutching her wine glass like a shield. She didn't even wait for me to roll the window down before she spoke. "They thought you might make things uncomfortable." She didn't look at me when she said it, just stared out at the azaleas lining her driveway. "Things have been delicate." I asked her flatly, "Did they lie to me just to avoid a scene?" She hesitated, then nodded. "They said you'd make it feel heavy, you'd ask questions." And that's when it clicked. It wasn't about the wedding, not really. It was about the house, the Whitfield family home, the one I co-signed on to help my parents avoid foreclosure 5 years ago, the one still partially under my legal name. They'd used the house, my house, as collateral for my sister's business loan without telling me, and they'd faked an invitation date just to buy more time before I found out. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, didn't throw the pastries. I simply said, "Got it," and drove away. I didn't sleep that night, didn't drink, didn't text anyone. I just went home, made tea, and sat in front of the old walnut cabinet I kept locked behind my bookshelf. Inside were the things most people forget: bank documents, power of attorney papers, the kind of signatures people assume you'll never revisit, but I had, years ago. I'd gone through every page after my dad's second financial emergency. And I'd made a decision, a quiet one. I opened my laptop and typed in a long password. The folder was called Whitfield Trust Contingency Only. Inside, property titles, a scanned copy of the mortgage refinance agreement. The deed split 3 ways at the time, but not anymore. 6 months ago, I'd filed a transfer of my share, 49%, into a private irrevocable trust, created under my full legal name with independent trustee protection and court-bounded asset lock. Why? Because I've worked in wealth management for a decade. Because I've seen what families do when the money gets tight and the blood gets thin. I never told them, never even hinted. But I'd quietly protected my share in case something like this ever happened. Because the ledger doesn't lie. People do. I closed the file, printed 3 documents, filed a digital notification of revocation for all shared access, and emailed the family accountant directly. Subject line, updated ownership terms effective immediately. No emotion, no warning, no permission, just math and law. I didn't wear black, too dramatic. I wore dark green, the kind of green that doesn't beg for attention. The kind that reads like power in courtrooms and contract law. I walked into my parents' house at noon. No call ahead. No warning. Just the sound of my heels on their polished floors and a laptop in my hand. They were all there. My mother arranging flowers like nothing had happened. My father pretending to be busy with mail. My sister upstairs, I assumed, hiding from her own signature. I sat down in the living room, opened my laptop, and turned the screen toward them. "Let's make this simple," I said, then clicked. Slide 1, the trust. Slide 2, property transfer confirmation, time-stamped, notarized. Slide 3, legal revocation of power of attorney effective 7 hours ago. Slide 4, letter to the bank requesting immediate account freeze and audit. I looked at them. "I've revoked all access to the joint assets. Your use of my name in financial filings without consent constitutes fraud. You used false documentation, that invitation, to mislead me and conceal your financial behavior. That legally is misrepresentation with intent to benefit." My father blinked. "Are you suing us?" I didn't smile, I didn't flinch. "No, not yet, but I've submitted a fraud alert and informed the property insurer. You'll be hearing from your lender, not me." My mother looked furious. "You're destroying this family over a house." I met her gaze. "No, I'm cutting off the fuel that let you build a fantasy on my back." Silence, thick, dry, no one moved, no one apologized. I closed my laptop, stood up, and placed a single envelope on the table. Inside, a cease and desist letter legally binding, already filed. They didn't open it, not while I was there. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't raise my voice, because some tables don't need to be flipped, they just need to be cleared. The next morning, my sister's second ceremony was called off. The venue cited internal contract irregularities. The caterer pulled out 2 hours later. By evening, their wedding website had quietly gone dark. They didn't call me. Of course not. But word gets around when you freeze a family's liquidity with 3 legal emails. Then came the withdrawal. Friends who had RSVP'd, yes, now posted vague Instagram stories about boundaries and truth. A college friend of mine who once ghosted me to intern for my sister's startup sent a single message. "Hey, I didn't know." I didn't respond. Investors backed out within the week. Not because I asked them to, but because banks talk. And when one partner in a family-run company is under investigation for misusing a property trust, people listen. My mother left me a voicemail. I didn't answer, but I listened. "You've embarrassed us. You made this private thing into a circus. This is what happens when you hold grudges instead of forgiving your own blood." She still thought this was about feelings, still thought I was acting out of spite. She didn't understand I wasn't punishing them. I was just removing myself and taking back what they built using my silence. 1 week later, the wedding photographer, the same one from the hidden June 1st ceremony, emailed me. No subject line, just an attachment. Inside, 22 unedited photos. Proof. Confirmation. Timeline. One image stood out. My sister cutting the cake. In the background, a blown-up print of the Whitfield home. As if it were theirs. As if it didn't have my name buried beneath it. That's when I contacted the court. Filed for a protective asset clause and non-contact order. Cited financial fraud, emotional manipulation, and identity misuse. The judge didn't even blink. Signed off the next day. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like cleaning a wound you should have dressed years ago. The envelope came 2 weeks later. No return address. Just a wax seal I recognized from my aunt's stationery drawer. Inside wasn't an apology, she never called it that. It was a manila folder, thick, labeled in her careful handwriting. In case it comes to this. Inside, screenshots, dozens, group messages I'd never seen, photos of my sister posing in front of the house like it was hers, emails forwarding bank notices, one thread marked urgent, "Do not tell Marin, she'll complicate everything." And then the audio files. My aunt had recorded the dinner the night before, the one where I'd said, "See you tomorrow," where they'd all gone quiet. In the background, someone whispered, "Just stall her. The trust documents can't trace back before Monday." They knew. They'd timed it. There it was, intent. And in civil court, intent is everything. I forwarded the folder to my lawyer. He called me that same night. Said one word. Bulletproof. The next morning, I filed for legal asset isolation and a civil fraud complaint. Attached the folder. Labeled Exhibit A, I didn't warn them. Didn't send a letter. Didn't show up at the house. I let the documents speak. They always do. And this time, they were louder than any confrontation I could stage. 3 days later, the court issued a property freeze. Another order barred my parents and sister from accessing any shared or inherited accounts. The final clause, all remaining ties to my estate holdings must be severed or reassigned within 30 days. Not because I asked for punishment, but because I'd proven motive, pattern, and cover-up. I didn't need revenge, I had evidence. And evidence, unlike family, doesn't change its mind. I didn't post anything. No cryptic captions. No victory speech. I didn't need to. But the story still got out, not from me. From the people who couldn't stop talking once they realized who I'd always been. The family group chat fell silent. Then someone removed me, which was ironic. I'd already left. I started getting messages, not from my parents, not from my sister, but from the edges, cousins, old friends who had watched everything from the sidelines. "You were always the one holding it together. I'm sorry I didn't say anything. I heard what happened. If you ever want to talk," and one from a former colleague of my sister's. I should have asked more questions when the house was used as leverage. That was on me. I didn't reply, not out of cruelty, but because I didn't owe them a bridge just because they noticed the fire late. My sister deactivated her startup's Instagram. Their investor profile was removed from the site. Word got out about the asset freeze. Even my parents' country club quietly stopped renewing their access. No formal notice, just unsubscribed. Funny thing about financial fallout, it doesn't explode, it evaporates. One handshake at a time, one invitation withdrawn. People don't like to admit they backed the wrong horse, but they will quietly move their bets. And this time they moved them away from the Whitfields, not because I said a word, but because I stopped needing to. Almost a year later, a new envelope arrived. Cream cardstock, silver trim, real handwriting, not calligraphy. That's how I knew it wasn't from them. It was from Lily, my youngest cousin, the only one who used to wait for me to finish speaking before jumping in. Inside was a wedding invitation. Underneath, a short note. "If you don't come, I'll understand. But if you do, I'll know I chose the right person in this family to keep." I read it twice, and then I placed it gently on the kitchen counter. No tears, just respect, because she had asked, not assumed, and that already made her different. I didn't go, not because I was angry, but because I was whole. And wholeness doesn't come with re-entry clauses, but I did send something, a small box, wrapped in linen ribbon. Inside, a hardcover book on financial boundaries. No inscription, just a handwritten card tucked between the pages. "Don't let anyone decide whether you exist, not even family." Marin and I never got a reply, but I didn't need one. Sometimes the RSVP isn't about attending, it's about answering. And this was my answer, not silence, not rage, just clarity. The kind that builds a life, quietly, away from the table they thought I needed, at the one I built myself.